Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. Guess what, Adam? We got some football, some actual, real, live football to talk about as the Eagles held an OTA this week, which they've been doing, but this one was actually open to the media. Unfortunately, like the last 7 weeks, Mother Nature has decided not to give us a spring and make it rain and be 50 degrees all day long. For weeks and weeks here now. So the practice was indoors, loses its luster a little bit, but it's an OTA to begin with, Adam. So you know this, like we don't put a whole lot of stock, but we just try to look for anything that might stand out that's interesting.
Noticeable.
And we'll get into we'll get
Question.
into
How is I haven't been in the practice bubble in a long time. Is the turf still very hard?
It's a good question. I don't know if it's been replaced. It didn't feel that hard from where I was standing, but I imagine on a day like that day was cold, it was rainy. They did decorate it, by the way, with lots of new Super Bowl posters and everything like that. I think they installed new lighting because it seemed brighter in there.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe to shine brightly on the nice Super Bowl banners and division posters. But it's funny you asked me that because I had that thought to myself because it's been a while since I've actually been down there in the bubble. And Chip Kelly almost got them a new ball. One of the few good things he would have done. I mean, he did bring some decent things to the franchise, but he was close to getting them a new bubble that was supposed to be part of agreement.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, Jeffrey Lurie has at times in the past spoken about it, and it's kind of outdated, to be fair. And I don't know what the holdup is. I haven't really dug into it in a while, but it's when you put a team that has a roster of what are that now, 80, right? And one 90. Of the largest media throngs in the NFL in a bubble. And by the way, a large coaching staff, and you have some scouts who are local there. I mean, you have some personnel. Howie's there. It's just so it can get really cramped really quickly. Oh, and you know this from your training camp tours and all the national work you do, that teams have now exceeded the Eagles as far as amenities, like in Minnesota, in San Francisco. The one we were at in Miami 2 years ago for the joint practices, my jaw almost hit the ground. That thing was beautiful and pristine. I think it's called the something Baptist practice. I don't know what it was, but the Eagles bubble and even the NovaCare a little bit is outdated. And I wonder at what point it's going to get, upgraded.
Fair point. Yeah, honestly, because the Minnesota, it basically, the Vikings like a college campus. It's ridiculous. From talking to scouts, the only thing that rivals the Vikings complex is like the University of Alabama. Apparently, like Alabama's like ridiculously great. But they got it's crazy. It's just it's funny. We never talk about 8 years. We never really talk about how antiquated NovaCare is.
Yeah.
It was and
that's because honestly, only in the last 8 years have some of these new stadiums, state-of-the-art stadiums, started to get built to make it antiquated. When we started this thing, the Minnesota, the San Francisco, I think was just built. Miami didn't have theirs yet, but so I mean, it's funny how fast things can become outdated, right?
Yeah, I wonder why. It's probably something we need to look into. Just is it even a chance over the next 8 to 10 years that I don't know where they would go or they've rebuilt. I have no idea, but I'm just it's for fans who've been there, who get to go to training camp every summer. That's where they have it at NovaCare, save for the one practice of the link. They've seen it. It's small. I mean, it's just the fields are beautiful. That's not the problem. It's just there's not a lot of space. And you see in the NFLPA questionnaire about, how they're treated and everything, it's usually they talk about not enough room and this and that, what they don't like. But, Jeffrey's so good. I mean, they love him,
Right.
But it's kind of a weird thing. Why would they not have a first-class facility?
No, I'm sure it'll come sooner than later, but we'll see how long that it takes. But just like you mentioned, what started this conversation is that the turf has been an issue for guys who've had knee issues, and not surprisingly, now, I don't know if this is related or not, but since you brought it up, we know that AJ Brown has a history with the knee and a lot of maintenance. He was there, but he did not participate in that practice. Now, I'm not saying that's definitely why. Who knows? Maybe he wouldn't have, because these are voluntary anyway. It could just be normal maintenance, but you saying that made me think of guys with knee issues and the fact that AJ Brown was there. It's not like he wasn't, he was there. He just didn't practice.
So I have a extremely small meniscal tear in my right knee. I didn't have to. The doctor said I didn't have to have surgery because unless you're an athlete, which you're not, even though I was playing tennis then, it clicks a little bit, but it doesn't bother me. It's fine. So anyway, but what would happen is I'd walk because it's so hard. There's no give on that damn turf. Yeah, after 15 minutes, I'd walk outside because you got the steps that would lead to the parking lot. I'd have to move around a little bit, get my knee right. I'm like, man, why am I so sore? It's the only place I ever walk anywhere in Pennsylvania where my knee bothers me. That's why I brought it up because in training camp, if it's raining, that's where we have to go indoors. Yep. And folks, there's literally no room. I mean, it basically, what is it? They have the media on one sideline, right? Just one sideline.
It's more like an L shape or a reverse L. You're like, if you could picture a football field, the right sideline, you get the right corner. So, sort of the edge. You can wrap around if you need to. So we get to watch everything sort of in front of us from the bottom left side. So
all right. So folks, understand OTAs. It's basically a passing exhibition. I warned our Patreon friends on Wednesday night. I've been doing this for you and I have been doing these combined. We probably covered the league for 47 years. Me 27, you 20 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped asking people who look good, who look bad. I really never ask that.
Right.
I look for stuff. And I gave the example of Miles Sanders. Body shape. Who's in shape, who's not. Who looks bigger? I know you saw something from a certain running back I'm very interested for you to talk about. Who looks different? Like that stuff matters to me. So I bring the Miles Sanders example up. Had no idea it would mean something. Sure as hell did. He built his lower body up because because when I would go, I would call you, and you'd say, "Well, anything stand out to you?" I go, "Yeah, Miles Sanders is like really built. We'll see if it matters." And that was his best year as an Eagle. That got him a good free agent contract.
That's right.
We used the example of Jordan Mailata was a little bit heavy. OTAs many years ago, as we reported at the time. He got the message and he got in better shape. That stuff is important because if guys don't look right, now if a guy looks slower, I'll give you a story the late great Gil Brandt gave me. Gil is the father of modern day scouting. I asked Gil because I wanted to know, like, I know OTAs or I don't know what they called them back in the 80s and 70s and 60s, but all season practices, right? Anything alarm you when you go to these all season practices? He said, yeah. A guy, let's say, I think they thought he ran a 4.38, but they mixed up the time and he ran up running a 4.58.
Oh.
And it showed when they got him to OTAs. I'll never forget that story. And he laughed because they knew immediately. Because I asked Bill Pauling the same question. Anything you ever see, I wasn't trying to be negative. I'm like, anything positive, anything where you got, guy, he's better at something you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I don't know if he mentioned the player. And it might have been, I'm not sure if it was on our show or on Sirius or ESPN, but did say, every once in a while it happens where the guy doesn't look quite like you thought.
Yeah.
But I've used the Ringo story. Be careful of what reporters put out there. When they start going gaga, it means very little to nothing.
Oh, sure.
But I look for, like I gave the example in years past with Carson Wentz. When I saw DiFilippo change his mechanics, I'm like, and he didn't, by the way, he didn't look good the first week because it was the first time John lowered his carriage point. No, he put it up. I'm sorry. He raised it. He said it was the process. John said it was taking too long. That's all. He said, that's all I did. Carson, he kind of didn't want to do it, but John was on him. And then 3 weeks, we get to like the, back then the mandatory camp was longer. Maybe it was 3 days. And I was like, oh my God. Wow. So by the way, and I don't want to make too much of this because it's only OTAs. You got to see, let's start with Tanner McKee. I know we're going to get to the whole thing. I just want to get to one player.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot of quarterbacks in your day at OTAs, including Wentz and Donovan and Vic. When you see a kid like Tanner McKee, as big as he is, what does it look like to you throwing that football?
Yeah, the one thing that really stood out to me, and I think it might have been the first time. I'm trying to think if I make it to a train. I may have made it to one training camp last year, or maybe not.
Okay.
And again, even last year, he's third. You're not getting a ton of reps, right? So my recollections of watching him in any camps at all are very um they're not vivid at all, if they even exist. So the one thing that really stood out to me, or stands out to me, is that, I mean, it's pretty obvious when you watch him play as a gun. I don't think I'm not breaking news, but it comes out of his hand pretty effortlessly. I think watching him throw the ball, and even Jalen Hurts, because most passes, as you mentioned, in OTAs are between 10 and 20 yards. It's a real dump off, check down, crossing route fest. Like, even in this session here that we're talking about, there might have been two or three balls that were thrown past 20 to 25 yards. So it's a check down fest. Jalen Hurts is, we know he's a very accurate quarterback, and he has
Last
a
year
smooth
sure was.
delivery.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure
he
was.
has a smooth delivery.
Yeah.
His ball placement's good. So when you watch McKee, who has an even stronger arm, just effortlessly hit guys. He threw one pass so hard that I think it was Harrison Bryant.
Hmm.
He kind of turned around and was like, "Whoa!" It's like right there.
Put it
But
on.
so then when Dorian Thompson Robinson comes in, it's sort of very noticeable how different his delivery is from Hurts and from McKee, who are more effortless. With Robinson, it looks like, I don't want to say he's laboring, but it looks like he's throwing a heavier ball than Hurts and McKee.
Or it takes him mechanically a little bit to get the ball out. Like Greg
Right.
Cosell talks about, forget which quarterback it was. It might have been the kid from Texas.
Okay. Yes, you were.
Yeah, it took a lot for him to be able to throw the football
Yep.
with juice. Physically, just mechanically, he wasn't totally clean. But the reason why I brought this up was, it's the one position that, not always, it has a better shelf life of holding up out of OTAs. Most don't. Most, you just throw what you see out, doesn't mean anything.
Mhm.
But when you see something that's really, really good, like Nate Sudfeld, when I saw him in probably 17 OTAs, I think, or 18. It was probably the next year's OTAs, yeah, because John worked with him in 17, but then you just see, and I remember talking to Nate about it. He worked on his athleticism, but you saw the ball come out much better than it did. You saw him move better than he did. More often than not, the quarterbacks, what you see is, over time, is who they are in OTAs based on the way they throw it. Not always, but more often than not, that's kind of real. But other than that, running backs, I laugh. Like, you can't touch them.
Yeah.
Any running back that looks bad, and they should be cut.
I'm not
He's
even sure
27
I
years of doing this
remember.
stuff. Ridiculous.
In training camp, they run the ball, but I don't
Of
think
course.
I can't remember a single
It's basically
handoff.
flag football.
Yeah.
OTAs are flag football. I love flag. I'm big on flag.
Right.
But OTAs, it's a passing exhibition. I just want to bring that up because the key, by the way, was he taking the twos?
McKee, oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely
Okay.
took the twos. There was no question. He's
Okay.
the backup quarterback. Yeah.
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 Now, we'll get into this because I know you got a lot of great notes. So we're going to give you the floor in a couple minutes here, but
Mhm.
just be careful, folks. It's like with Quentin. I just want to give people. There was reporting. It was observations, right?
Right.
Oh, Quinyon Mitchell might not start this year because he's running with the fours and OTAs. I'm like, these people don't know what they're doing.
Or he's playing nickelback. Remember that?
Right.
He was a nickel.
Don't read into
OTA.
that. Don't
Yeah.
listen to it. It means absolutely nothing. And I called Geoff on this. I said, dude, I didn't want to make fun. I don't make fun of people on Twitter. This guy's going to look so stupid. And I heard the guy on some media show saying, I don't think he's going to start this year. I'm like, what are you saying? Dude,
Yeah.
unless he's completely clueless, he's starting. Unless what are you talking about?
I know.
The guy's a first round pick. They don't bring guys along slowly anymore, folks. It doesn't work that way. Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. And hopefully,
be careful what you say.
Hopefully, this spring people will be a little better with that.
Yeah, I just want to bring it up.
Yeah, no,
because people read into the stuff, and who look bad and look good. It's not about that.
Yeah. I have no. This guy looks great. This guy looks bad, or this guy is going to be a bench player, or this guy's going to be a starter. But I can tell you that if you're going to draw a long-term conclusion, it's going to be hard for anybody other than Tanner McKee to be the #2 quarterback.
There you go. There's something definitive this early. I'm holding you to that.
I mean,
I'm joking.
oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, what are we talking about here?
Well, no, but if I know Kyle McCord's running the fours, but if Dorian Thompson Robinson shows something he's never shown, hey,
Yeah, yeah, you're
things
right. Okay.
happen. You never
So,
know.
yes, I shouldn't speak in absolutes, but there's a reason why he was the number 2 quarterback, and
He's pretty
there's a reason
gifted.
why
I know.
Kenny Pickett's no longer here as well. So,
Yep.
all right. Before we get into more OTAs, I just want to remind everybody, Andrew DeCecco was there. Of course, I'm there representing Philly Voice, so please check out all of my work and all of Jimmy Kempski's work and a lot of our coverage on Philly Voice. And also check out Andrew DeCecco's on InsideTheBirds.com.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
Andrew's Daily DeCecco was phenomenal. Was it like 20 minutes? It's like one of the.
Yeah, he gave
I
his
was like, wow, this is
observations.
some good bleep. This is really good. This is longer than usual because
Yep.
we never said, hey, Andrew, you have to do a half an hour. Just take whatever thoughts you have. It could be 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12.
Right.
This is really good stuff. Really good stuff. Good job.
Loved it. And of course, those observations are also up on the website, InsideTheBirds.com as well. So a couple of things sort of from a maintenance standpoint from the OTAs. Obviously, the injured guys were some guys were injured, not there. Some guys just weren't there. Like Ben Van Sumeren. It's funny. I wanted to ask Kevin Patullo about. I think someone laughed when I said this, but I really wanted to ask him what his vision as the play caller now and OC is for the fullback position, because obviously last year they decided they wanted one with Carrie Blassingame, and then they took and moved one of their most athletic freak of nature type individuals in Ben Van Sumeren to fullback, and are doing it full time. And I just wondered if they maybe have sort of a Kyle Juszczyk in mind, like someone who's more than just going to go out there and block, but become a weapon. I just didn't get a chance to ask the question. And of course, Van Sumeren is still coming off the knee surgery, so he didn't practice. Devontae Smith was not there. Avery Williams, again, it's voluntary, but I was surprised he was not there, given all the hype that Nick Sirianni has for him. So maybe he'll be at the next one. And by the way, I got to mention, I'm going to reiterate this many times. This was the one that was open to the media so far. Like, it doesn't mean these guys weren't at the closed one. So I don't want to make it seem like Avery Williams not been there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Relax, people. Right. People make such a big deal. Because, listen, I understand. There's not much going on now. The Phillies were off on Wednesday. Their game was rained out against the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
They may, because it's football. And we've been waiting, whatever market people are in or fan of, you're waiting for football. And it just, I don't worry about this stuff. It's all going to, we'll get to the Bryce Huff stuff in a minute because it's kind of comical. People are all sorts of theories on this. Social media, it's funny. Like Dickerson, by the way, had major knee surgery, so he wasn't there. Reed Blankenship, needs to get a contract extension. They need to take care of him. He's way better than I expected. I'll be admitted. I never thought he'd be this good. Like this.
No, that
this is one. It's funny, by the way. 32 teams didn't think he was very good. He wasn't drafted. Let's be honest about it. But he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I know. Greg Cosell's done a great job of outlining how good he is. But man, the dude, they needed to. I know it's going to work out in the end for him. And folks, remember, training camp is until late July. Season starts till September, so I don't worry about contract stuff in May. And never make a big deal. It doesn't matter. It matters, sure as hell matters at training camp. If he's not there, then that's a problem. That means something's going on. I don't worry about it right now. Don't worry about it.
I feel like Reed Blankenship has basically been a story very similar to Quentin Michael. I think they're similar type players in that, they're athletically compared to their counterparts. They may not be the greatest athletes, but they're really smart. They're technically sound. They know exactly where to be. They earned their way to being a starter by having a lot of experience, both in college and then starting off on special teams and then getting in there. They're very similar. The way they play the game, even similar. So it's been a really good story. And I don't know that he wasn't there because of the extension or that he's not on yet. But again,
exactly. Yeah, to be clear, I'm not saying it was, but or wasn't. I'm just saying he's on the last year of this 1-year extension, which is so light. They have Howie and Jeffrey and Julian has that. Julian's involved, obviously, with the cash. They're very good to their players. This needs to be taken care of. I have no horse in the race. They have a history of treating players right, really well. He's only going to make 147.5 this
Yeah,
season,
yeah.
1.1 fully guaranteed. This is criminal. You got to take care of this guy.
You're right. You know what? And again, we're
Right.
not saying it's related or not related, but if it were me, I wouldn't show up either. Honestly,
Yeah, and by the way, it's voluntary. They can't fine him.
Right.
You'll know if something's real if he doesn't show up to the one day of mandatory camp. They only have one day. If he doesn't show up to that, then obviously you could go on record saying it's a contract issue.
Of course. Cam Jurgens was there, but just watching, he's coming back from the back surgery. Nolan Smith, interestingly, did participate individually in some drills. I think it was Washburn that he was doing some drills with. Now he's got a brace all up on the left arm of the tricep where he tore in the Super Bowl. But it was good to see him out there just getting some work in. I mean, he's
great.
He was doing some pass rushing drills. So that was good to see. So those are all the guys. You mentioned Bryce Huff not there. Now, I just want to say that about Huff. You're right that sometimes people jump to the low-hanging conclusion. Oh, he's upset. He's not happy. How can you do this when you're trying to get back into Vic Fangio's good graces? We don't know that the team, because this has been done plenty of times before, including by the Eagles, didn't say, hey, Bryce, we're trying to work something out. We may try to move you. We know it's going to be very, very difficult. But for now, don't come and risk getting hurt at OTAs while we may have something for you. If we don't, we don't. But, that conversation is a realistic one that could have taken place. So we can't just assume him not being there is because he don't want to be there. That's why it's OTAs, and I don't make judgments about anybody not being there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's in the second year of the first 2 years being at 34 million fully guaranteed. I know you were stunned when I said this last year. I had no problem why they signed him. I knew why they did it. He was arguably the NFL's best sub-package rusher.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on which metrics you look at, but that's the way I know one team, not the Eagles, another team who's in on it told me. He was so explosive in his role. This happens in the NBA. Some guys are great. You look at the 48-minute average. Well, here's what it would be if he starts. Well, it's the reason why he's not starting. He's a really good bench player. He played in the wide nine with Salah, and by the way, the Niners could use another pass rusher.
That's the one team. That's the one team that I think if there's going to be some kind of deal that is going to take the money, then it might be them. Because
not 17, but the Eagles will have to eat a lot of it. But just to get them off the roster,
right. But taking something of it,
someone's got to. Yeah, I mean, look, it's not the Eagles have so much. It's so funny because if he wasn't making so much money, they could just walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it didn't work out. If it was a 1 year deal for 17 million, or if it was a 2 year deal, with 34 million, 5 million guaranteed year two. See ya.
Yeah.
Well,
if it was like Devin White, like Devin White. Sorry,
right? It was just over 5 million. Then, by the way, he went up to so he can get cut, so he can play somewhere else. He took a pay cut.
Yeah.
Before they cut him, they mutually agreed to it. But yeah, well, you know what, man. I didn't know we were going to go there. Maybe they approach his agent and say, "Listen, dude, would you be willing to if we cut you down? Why isn't that? Maybe they do that. Who knows? That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes you got to move on anyway.
All right, so we'll get into some of the offense and defensive observations. And again, I don't want to. I'm going to go blue in the face saying not to make too big of a deal of it, but I guess the funny thing to bring up is without Cam Jurgens there, without Landon Dickerson there, and without Lane Johnson there,
it's not funny. By the way, go ahead.
The first team offensive line was your left tackle was Jordan Mailata, so that was good. Your left guard was wait for it, folks. Matt Pryor. Your center
say it.
Wait for it, folks. Brett Toth. And your right guard was Tyler Steen.
Did you say Brett Toth? Did you say Brett Toth?
I said Brett Toth.
This guy still
with the team.
This is one of those stories you can't make up. Other than Stout, someone must love him. Good for Brett to not give up, the former undrafted free agent. I mean, it's amazing. The major knee surgery years ago, I believe. But man, I know you were there, seeing him in training camp. I don't know, was it 3 or 4 years ago when he was sailing the ball over? Might have been. Yeah. I'm assuming it was Hurts' head.
Yeah.
I give Stout credit in that he thinks he could play center. Stout's like almost never wrong. But man, come on, man. I know Drew Kendall's a rookie, so they got to go with they'll get him work later. But
Yep.
come on, man. Go ahead.
And then everybody's favorite backup right tackle, who plays as many snaps as possible in games or times that don't matter, was Darian Kennard again. So, because there's no Fred Johnson anymore. And interestingly, Kendall Lamb was the second team left tackle, not the first team right tackle.
I'm not surprised. I expected him. Well, no, but he can do both. Now, again, okay, this brings up a good point, which you brought up earlier. Make no assumptions. It's one practice that the media saw. The day before on Tuesday, who knows? He could have been playing. He could have been the backup left.
Right.
And by the way, they practice next week. See, I read nothing into this stuff, and Coach's voice told me we experiment a lot.
Yeah.
No TAs. So,
well, plus you want to put guys where they should be. And to be honest with you, without Lane Johnson there, you're going to need a right tackle. Now, you could play Kendall Lamb at right tackle because he's played both left and right in his career. But then who is your second team left tackle? You can't make that Kennard, because Kennard, I don't believe, has ever played left tackle. If anything, he's a right tackle / right guard. So they've got listen, you're right. They want to experiment, but they also want to put guys in positions where they're going to
You don't want to put, especially with your quarterback. You're not going to get your quarterback you can't hit him.
OTAs don't matter anyway.
There's no physical play, but you still have to protect. And as you know, they'll say sack. They'll just blow the play dead. Sack. If they think the guy would have gotten sacked. But did you see Cameron Williams at all? 73.
I saw him there.
Yeah.
So from our angle,
body type, just the body types.
Well, see, that was the difficulty. From where the media is stationed, we had more of the defense. The backs of the defense are to us. Okay. So that means the offense, the front of the offense is facing us, and they're encrouched, and they have the defense in front of them. So we actually had difficulty figuring out if it was actually Matt Pryor at left guard or Trevor Keegan, because I think one is a 75, the other is 76, or 76 and 78. And, when they kind of bunch up their uniform, it's hard to tell.
Oh, I hate that.
Who. But we were pretty sure that was Matt Pryor at left guard. And then I think second team left guard was Keegan, if I'm not mistaken. So Lamb, Keegan, and then I think Kendall was the center. And then right guard, right tackle on the second team would have been jogging my mind here now.
So at right guard, it was Steen and Kenyon Green.
Oh, Kenyon Green would be the second team right guard. Yeah, he was second team. Okay. That's the one. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Couldn't recall. So yeah, but again, offensive linemen don't have to work real hard because you can't hit the quarterback. And I will say this: there was a little thud on a passing play. It was between McCullum and Goddard. They kind of on a completion over the middle, they kind of banged bodies a little bit, which you don't always see too much, but it did happen.
Not supposed to, but yeah, that's cool.
Yes, not supposed. It wasn't intentional. I would say that.
Right. Yeah, that's going to happen. Incidental context. There's not. It's football. I mean, you can only do so much. Like the NFLPA could only do so much, and no contact. Well, okay, but it's football.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to get fined by the league for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of questions before we get to defense.
Okay.
Kylan Granson is small. He's under 6'2".
Yeah.
I know it's an OTA practice. It's not the real thing in training camp, but movement. I look for this stuff on guys like that, because if he's going to play on this team, he's got to move, because he's a H-back type. Anything at the time, like Harrison Bryant's my guy. Like we'll see.
Yeah. No, you know what? I didn't on this particular practice. There just wasn't a whole lot of Kylan Granson.
He's 83, by the way. Okay.
Right. There was a deep. I think I mentioned that, right? That McKee hit Harrison Bryant on the left side with a laser. It was a 20. It was almost like Harrison Bryant was surprised it was there. I was like,
oh, that was the one. Oh, that was the one. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But he got his hands up quick, and it was bam, and then he was headed upfield, so it was good. But one thing I will point out that I think is a really good exercise that the Eagles do, or a drill, and I couldn't tell if it was run by Stoutland or the tight ends coach, Jason Michael, or both in conjunction. But in warmups, they take a tight end and a tackle and get them in the stance, right? And then have a defensive. They'll use a spare tight end or tackle who acts as a defender and stands in front of them. And what the tackle and tight end do is, they simulate snap and then they simulate a double team reach block on that person who's standing in front of them. And I was watching EJ Jenkins, who's a big guy. I mean, he's probably their second. I don't think it's any question. He's their second best blocking tight end behind Goddard, although the bar is pretty low there. But you can tell he's got good form and technique when he does his double teams with the tackle. And then I saw Cameron, Cameron Latu was next in line. And I think it's a really good drill because of how much inside zone the Eagles run, which requires the tackle and the tight end together in unison often to block a guy before somebody leaves and covers another. So I just liked it. And it got me a chance to see Jenkins and Latu down in a stance, like a 3-point stance. And then, double teaming, combining on it's called a combo block on a defender. So that was good. And that was really all that stuck out to me about the tight ends.
Okay. That's pretty much, I'm just looking at
I did want to mention Shipley.
Okay. Go ahead. What did he my big thing for him, he's got to put on mass on his frame because he's a knock on him, lower body, too small. Would you see anything interesting?
Yeah, no, I thought Andrew and I were kind of looking at them together and it felt a little like weird. Like, you're looking at a mannequin in an apartment store and somebody catches you, but like it looks bigger to me, like.
No, I mean, honestly, dude, ask Andrew. We've told this story about the kid, Dylan McMahon. I said I thought he was a fullback. I couldn't see the number when I saw him last summer. I'm like, oh, I guess because that was when there were questions about fullback. Oh, he might be a fullback. Oops, he's a guard. Oh shit.
Right.
So no, he and I, we saw Shipley. He had so much juice last summer, but he physically, I wondered physically if he was going to be big enough because that was a knock on him in a scouting standpoint, despite how fast he was.
Yeah, he looked bigger to me.
Okay.
And then you worry like, all right, when a guy gets big, does he lose his explosion if he puts on muscle?
Yeah,
but he caught a ton. Again, it's the nature of the camp, so it's not like there's anything to this, but he caught a lot of passes. Yeah. There was one, I will say this. He ran an out route, a short out route against Zach Bond, and beat him to the outside, caught the pass in stride, I think from Hurts, and went out of bounds. So it was a nice move. You saw him do the little shake, like he got into Bond's hip on the inside and then broke quickly to the outside to get open. So, and he caught a lot of passes. And not only did he catch him, but he would catch it and turn up field pretty quickly. So that was nice to see.
One more. A.J. Dillon.
Can't say that there, again, this is not
body type, just body type.
Yeah, I don't even actually remember.
He's 29.
I'm sure he was there, but I didn't get a whole good look at him.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, we'll talk about him next week. I'm just curious because I'll tell you what, man. I know we've been asked this. He signed here to help out Barkley. And man, if he could get anywhere close to where he was before the injury, I get that he was disappointed for the Packers. I get it. It wasn't quite what they thought when they got him in the second round. When you draft a running back in the second round, he's going to take over for Aaron Jones. That's going to be the story. He never became that guy, unfortunately. He flashed. He had some good games, but he never became the player they thought he was, and he should have been. But the guy's talented. He was a second round pick. We'll see. Just like Rashad Penny now, in terms of could A.J. Dillon get to back to where he was? Penny never got back to it. He lost it. He lost his juice in his legs. Yeah. Dillon didn't play football last season. So you got to see, can he get his legs back? I honestly, I don't know what to expect from him. I don't know.
I think it's very fair. I think you should be, based on what you said about Penny and this injury, what we saw, how it affected Jordan Howard. I think if you're skeptical, it's fair. It's there. And listen, if he overcomes it and he's good, that's great. But no one's saying he can't do it. It's just there's reasons to be skeptical. I think that's fair.
He's the perfect guy to help out Barkley in the fourth quarter. If they got a +2 touchdown lead, I think the rule with coaches is like if you're up by 17 points or more and they're less than 10 minutes, you can start pulling some guys out. Well, Barkley would be one of them, and that's where Dillon comes in, man.
Yeah.
And obviously early in the game, you might want to give Barkley half of one series off if you think you trust him, if you trust Dylan. But man, we're gonna obviously we'll get a way better idea in training camp because running backs always look good in OTAs. But man, the dude with those thighs,
thunder thighs.
Yeah, I mean it's him and Barkley, of course. It's just there's a reason why they signed him, and although I find it comical, Avery Williams got more guaranteed money, and that one like was a stunner when we put the contracts out a couple months ago. I'm like that. It's one of those I had to double check to make sure it was right. It was right because Dylan didn't play last season.
That's right. Without Devontae Smith there and without AJ Brown there, we did see Jahan Dotson and Terrace Marshall get a decent amount of reps, but that's obvious because those guys would be sort of next. I don't remember. I thought I saw Johnny Wilson there, but I'm not sure he actually. Maybe he didn't participate, or if he did, he was blocking, and I didn't see him. But
he is a blocking receiver.
I know. I say that as a little bit of a joke, but I really don't recall anything like even seeing him run a route. But he might have. I don't know. But yeah, I saw Terrace Marshall, saw Jahan Dotson. They obviously got a lot of work with those other guys who are out, and that's pretty much it for the offense, I would say. Tight end, wide receiver,
O-line. Well, Shipley, that's a great note you have. That I love that. Now again, maybe we'll get Andrew on one of these shows, and we'll get hit. Really, I got a lot of things that I want to talk to him about. We did this last year with him. I want to do that. I want to get him on back with us, in addition to what his daily DeCheco. But man, he and I know what he and I saw last summer. Like I was like, wow, and him and Gainwell next to each other. It's funny because Gainwell's built low to the ground, and he could block. He was phenomenal at it. But Shipley had so much juice. I'm like, come on, man, let's get it. But Barkley was the man, and there was really no reason that. Well, they would take Barkley off occasionally, as on third down. But man, if Shipley could help them on third down, that would be great. That really would be great.
Yep. And as for the who cares play of the day, the wide receiver from Tarleton State, what's his name? I'll tell you in a second.
Is he the kid that they signed from Giles Jackson?
No, that's the kid from Washington.
Darius Cooper.
Darius Cooper caught a nice deep ball, one of the few, maybe the only deep ball.
He put up massive numbers at the Tarleton State in Texas. Yeah.
Yes. He caught the deep ball. He burned the other rookie free agents, like the BJ Harvey, or I want to say, or what is his name?
BJ Mays.
BJ Mays. That's right. BJ Mays. Now,
Billy Mays.
I do want to mention this. Danny Gray caught it. One of the few, like I said, there were three deep. Danny Gray beat Adoree Jackson down the right sideline. Now, again, I didn't see the defense. What?
Good. I'm just joking.
Overreaction.
You got beat. That's it. You can't play anymore. You got beat.
Over. Yep, it's
I'm
over.
joking.
No, I don't know if it was a zone and it was just trail, or if it was man. But you look up and all of a sudden you see Danny Gray flying down the right side and Adoree Jackson behind
can run,
him.
Man.
So yeah, he's probably the fastest receiver on the Eagles, I would think. Danny Gray. Did he run a 4.28? Or no, not a 4.28. 4.38 maybe. What was his 40?
He could. I don't remember out of SMU, but I'll tell you what. They're definitely onto something with him as talent because he had trouble staying healthy with the Niners.
Yeah, he ran a 4.33 by the way. 4.3.
Wow. Okay, and that's legit. By the way, he could fly.
He can fly.
Yeah,
that was obvious.
That's not good for Nye Smith. I know that they don't play the same position. Nye is really inside. But Nye could do gadget stuff, but they could use some juice from their bench. And this they're not very, as we know, they're not deep at all at receivers. So there's an opportunity here for Danny Gray.
Yeah, I can almost feel like Adoree Jackson being like, "Oh, I was not familiar with your game."
Right, maybe so. Yeah, but remember, Adoree was a big time explosive corner in his day. He's 30. He turns 30.
Yep.
So we're going to learn it. So I'm not, again, it's one play in indoor turf. Doesn't mean anything. But we're going to learn in training camp if Adoree Jackson could still play. Because he's getting paid less than he did last season, which was next to nothing in terms of veteran money. So we'll see. I mean, he's got a lot to prove here.
You want my Shunderick Powell observation?
Do it.
No, I don't have one. I'm just kidding. He's the running back from.
All right. By the way, it's SHUN. Derek.
Yes. Shunderick, right?
out of the same school that basketball Hall of Famer Scottie Pippen went to, Central Arkansas.
That's right. But I don't have a Shunderick Powell
Or
observation for
basketball Hall
you.
of Fame, whatever they call it.
Yep.
No Shunderick highlight? Okay.
No
No
Shunderick
problem.
Powell. Sorry.
He's
All right.
small. Isn't he really small, though? Isn't he really small?
He is like 5'9". 5'9". So.
Okay, he might even be smaller now, but go ahead.
All right. You want to go over to defense?
Let's do it.
All right. So I think the first thing that is equal parts, it's only OTA, so who cares? But also, well, maybe there's some logic or thought behind this, is that Cooper DeJean a couple of times played outside corner when the Eagles were in a base defense, meaning no nickel. So, like, if you're imagining it, it's their 5-man front on 1st and 10. The other team has come out with 2 tight ends or a fullback and a tight end, right? And so it's you're trying to match big with big. So no nickel, 5-man front, even though the linemen weren't on the field at the time. 2 corners, 2 safeties, 2 linebackers. So that was when Cooper DeJean, and it was probably just 2 or 3 times, but he did talk about it in his presser after, and he did say he's gonna practice there in that look throughout camp as he understands it, and we'll see. So I think that it's more of an interesting discussion long term as will the Eagles want to do that in when only they're in their base defense, play DeJean outside because it gets him on the field, right? And I think sometime, Adam, depending on how things are going with Adoree Jackson and Kelly Ringo, maybe we're in August and we're discussing the concept that is Cooper DeJean maybe a better outside corner than those two, and what does Vic Fangio do if that's the case? That's for down the road. That's for down the road.
But let me just say this, though. This is why you have Coop outside now. Because remember, they didn't get a chance last year. He was hurt in their offseason program.
Yep.
This is why. Well, it's funny. I was looking at our notes. Before he got hurt, he was doing some stuff in OTAs. Because I remember we talked about they were lining him up in a bunch of positions, and then he got hurt again, but with the hamstring. But the bottom line is, this is why now you cross train. This is what OTAs are about: your experimentation, and because you never want to wait till training camp. Right. That's like, and unfortunately, because he had the hamstring injury leading up to training camp, and he wasn't available for a bit. They had to make up for lost time, so they moved him to nickel. So they weren't going to ask him to play outside corner, nickel, this, that, and the other, because this is too much. You don't want to overload a guy as a rookie. Mm-hmm. But it's good that they're doing this now. And look, once you get to training camp, if opposite Quinion, we'll talk about him in a second because there's an interesting note there. But if Jackson or Ringo aren't cutting it, they don't need to look on the outside for another veteran corner. They drafted DeJean. Remember, their whole goal was to have him be an outside corner. That's what they drafted him to be. But things happened. He unfortunately got hurt. They cross-trained him. He was dynamic in nickel. He actually might be the best nickel defender. He's that special. I mean, my God, he was one of the. It's again how you win a Super Bowl. Everybody plays better. Not everyone. A lot of players play better than you expected, and he was.
Yeah. I think, listen, I don't think it's an accident or coincidence or like just a random thing that the last 2 Super Bowl champions got really high level play out of their nickel and then predicated what they do defensively on it. That would be the Eagles last year with DeJean and the Chiefs 2 years ago when Trent McDuffie was playing nickel because they had L'Jarius Sneed and they had, I can't remember who the other outside corner was, but they played McDuffie at nickel and they used him the same way the Eagles use DeJean as a jack. They probably blitzed McDuffie a lot more than DeJean blitzed, but DeJean was a part of the sim pressure package, and he was a turnover machine at times, and so was McDuffie 2 years ago. I don't think that's an accident. I think that's the sort of the changing face of defenses in the league, and your interior defenders are really, really important. I mean, the most important people for the Eagles last year, honestly, were Bond and DeJean at times. I mean, they dominated games. They created turnovers.
And by the way, that was my point.
Yeah.
They played better than you could ever imagine. Okay. Bond, 100%. In Howie's career, everyone will have their favorite free agents. Best value. definitely the best value that he's ever had.
Mhm.
Like, you couldn't make it up what he did, and now he's making $17 million a year, but it's I mean, they signed him for another position, folks. I mean, come on, done. You can't make this stuff up. Like, this is something you couldn't have counted on.
Mhm.
And elite coaching, great general manager, great defensive coordinator, great staff Vic has. But you know what? And we'll move on to more of your notes. They got the youngest defense in the National Football League. It's by the way, it's a good thing because they're really coached well. Bobby King, the inside backer coach, is phenomenal. Christian Parker's phenomenal, D-backs coach.
Mhm.
We know other teams had interest in him if he ever became free, which he wasn't because he's really good. But the bottom line is, as young as this group is, they're only going to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to expand on the point, the Ravens defensively 2 years ago, they were amazing. They were using Marlon Humphrey and or Kyle Hamilton as a nickel. The Bills are a very good team. They have one of the best nickels in Teron Bernard. Is that
Teron Johnson?
Teron Johnson? Right. I was mixing that up with the
He's
other
really
guy.
good. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's not like a random nickels now are as important as they've ever been in the NFL because of the way defenses are playing. And
because of 11.
That's the conversation Vic's gonna have to weigh as this thing goes along.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Now it depends on the team. You have to have context. Everyone's, it's more of a running league now. Things are trends. Well, yeah, if you have Saquon Barkley or if you have Josh Jacobs, you're probably going to want to run the ball. And Green Bay is a big balanced team.
Mm-hmm.
But bringing this up, the Bills, they wanted to help Josh Allen out, and they wanted to get him a little bit more under control. And I give Joe Brady credit, who the Panthers fired in season 4 years ago. But Joe Brady reined him in a little bit, and James Cook did things that people weren't sure he can do because he's smaller than his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they ran the ball. They became more of a balanced team. They ran the ball pretty damn well. But that's the thing. As we flip the script to this year, we'll talk about Kevin Patullo also before we get out of here. It's going to be fascinating. Before we go, we'll go over defense fully in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Just what the approach is going to be, and that's something we're not going to know for a while. In terms of, we know they're going to be a running team, but is it going to be? Are they going to run the ball more in the first half of games than any other team again 2 years in a row? That's going to be fun to see what happens.
It is going to be fun. As far as just other defensive observations, obviously Baun and Trotter were the first team linebackers, so no surprise there. The only thing, and this is not a nothing burger, but it's also not a something burger, is that it's pretty obvious that safety is a very unsettled position, and even more so when Reed Blankenship isn't there. So there was not one single safety who didn't take a first team rep in this OTA. So Makuba took first team reps. Sidney Brown took first team reps.
Go ahead, back up. I'm sorry. Makuba, go ahead. Makuba did?
Makuba, Sidney Brown, Tristan McCullum, Lewis Seen, Andre Sam. I think the only safety who did not take a first team rep would be the rookie free agent guy, Maxon Hook, from Toledo. So did I miss any other? Because remember, Blankenship is not there. I think that's all of them. So
yeah, that's funny.
Now I would say that Brown and Makuba probably got the most, but they were definitely mixing and matching. It's not like those two got 80% and the others split the rest of the 20. Lewis Seen,
go ahead. Yeah,
is a weird look. I don't. This sounds negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I haven't seen a safety as tall and long limbed as him, and that's why before we did this podcast, I called you up on the way home and I said, "Remind me of what injury he had with the Vikings." You said compound fracture.
Yeah,
and I said that doesn't surprise me at all. Now these are just observations, but the type of, when you're a downhill safety and you're making contact and you're running across the field and you have long legs like that. We say this about long-legged wide receivers. They often have knee injury or ankle or leg injuries because there's just a lot of it exposed. So, typically safeties aren't that tall. Cam Chancellor was, but he was also built really thickly like a linebacker. Lewis Seen looks a little bit at him like a linebacker, but not a stout one, right? He's tall and thin. So I don't know. I'm sort of fascinated to see how this thing plays out for him in training camp, and I hope he stays healthy.
Yeah.
but he does sort of remind me of how we sometimes judge running backs who run upright, like Deuce McAllister, or wide receivers who are tall and long legged, and how they frequently get injured because of the exposure of those legs.
Wow, he's even taller than I remember. Wow. And this is from his official combine numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I had to look at my notes here. Wow, holy smokes. 6'2 1/4. On your point, wow, he needs a now. I don't know what he weighed in with the Eagles here, but he weighed in that combine at 199, really good length.
Mm-hmm.
32 1/4 arms for safety is really good. I can't believe this is right, but it is right.
He almost looked taller to me than 6'2 1/4, because what's
Okay.
Makuba? 6'1"?
Just under he's under 6'1". By the way,
Yeah.
guess what Lewis Seen ran?
I'm sure he went to Georgia, so I'm guessing it's
I
some type of freakish.
I can't believe I just can't
Let me let
believe
me let me go ahead and guess. At how much does he weigh again? To what?
he was at the combine 6'2 1/4, 199.
199. Man, again, he looks like he's bigger than 199. I'm gonna say he ran a 4.43.
439.
Oh my god,
That's insane. What
that's
look,
only a little bit slower than Danny Gray.
I didn't know this. See, I didn't know any of this stuff. I'm looking because we haven't looked at it since 2022. I cannot believe. Yeah, if the official time was actually I'm sorry, 437, not 439. His 10-yard split was 151. His vert was 36.5. His broad jump was 10-1. Well, no one. It was 11-1. No wonder he was a first round pick. Other than
Yeah.
he went to Georgia. It's a good
But now
player.
that you say that, he's 6'2", so is Keely Ringo, basically. And Keely Ringo's like 207, right? And this kid seen is 199. So he's the same size height-wise, but 8 pounds lighter. So that paints a picture. If you're going to look 8 pounds lighter, you're not stout. Like, Ringo's a strong physical corner. He looks like legs. Like, he just looks like a
I got you. So he's
tall guy.
long, and
Yeah.
maybe he needs to fill out. But now I would tell you, which we noted, we had heard that the Bills started practicing him at linebacker. Now, were they doing it because Matt Milano was hurt? I don't know. This was last year. I didn't get the background. I just know from someone who was told this, who was informed that
Mm-hmm.
they were working him at linebacker for a bit in practice on the practice squad. So I don't know I don't know. We know that he's safety here, but that's just interesting. I'm seen as a guy that's got a lot of ability. He hasn't played meaningful football in nearly 3 years.
Mm.
So he's another guy. And he was totally healthy, by the way. We're told with the Bills, he was fine.
Yeah.
And now, as you said, I remember when we were told that he signed a 2-year deal, you made a good point. It was all about the offseason. They want to guarantee that he get to the offseason. So they can look at him. That's why they signed a 2-year deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I had this conversation with Andrew. It's amazing their philosophy now on these guys compared to, like, maybe say the end of the Andy Reid era, where Andy was always finding like smaller, undersized linemen, corners, nickels who were fast, but the Eagles are really, over the last few years, we've talked about this a little bit. Like, it started with the Zach Cunningham signing and then Oren Burks. Like, they've gotten atypically taller and bigger
Longer.
at positions that they normally, like, there was never a Lewis Seen type guy on the Eagles.
Well, he's right now. Now again, he's an anomaly at safety. Like they're not
Correct.
not.
But if you package that with the fact that Ringo and Ricks are both in the 200-pound and around 6'1", or actually I think Ringo's 6'2". Castro Fields is actually a tall guy too. I mean, he looked like he's a good 6'1", at least 200. These guys just stand out. They're taller than what you're ordinarily used to seeing out of Eagles corner, or not Eagles, past Eagles corner. I mean, Mitchell and DeJean, Adam, are strong, physical guys who are right in that 6'1", 200-pound neighborhood, and that's just, that's not Sheldon Brown, right?
Well, right. But
Lito.
Okay, since you brought this up, Eli Ricks at the combine, him and Ringo were the same year. Ricks 6'2" even, 188, arm 32 3/8. Ringo 6'1 3/4, 207 on your point.
Yeah.
207. So he had more weight. Yeah, and remember, Scene's a safety. So you got to
Yep.
be. Usually, coaches will tell you, "I want my safety 5'10 and a half, 5'11, built, strong, you compact, and could hit, tackle." It's 6'2" safeties are like extremely rare.
Yeah.
You just don't see that.
I mean, Doc was obviously a big, strong guy, but I don't think he was.
5'11. Doc's
Yeah,
5'11, right?
he was 5'11. You know,
Yeah.
Q was not. He's like 6 feet on a good day. He'll be the first person to tell you that. He's probably 5'11 as well. Sheldon Brown was 5'10. Now he was 200 because he was strong, but he was only 5'10. Lito was 5'10, 5'11, maybe 190. Like the Eagles just weren't built this way in the secondary in the past. But they from middle linebacker now or inside linebacker to corner to safety, it's a
good point.
Better. Yeah,
it is a good point. We haven't even thought about that. Now, sometimes that's a necessity because when they signed Cunningham, it was an emergency. They in fact they signed Miles Jack at the same time, same day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but yeah, they're not. It's not like they're against it. I mean, Small Mondon's not very big. You know, he's not like 240, 250.
Yeah.
But you're right. In some instances, they're getting bigger. Yeah, I agree with that.
And listen, I'm sure that has a lot to do with the way the offensive players have changed. There's a lot more 6'1", 6'2" wide receivers now that can run. I mean, it started with Calvin Johnson years ago or a Plexico Burris, and there's just a lot of guys who are big, strong, physical guys who can also run 4.3 and make contested catches. So, you know, usually one thing begets another, and I think that's probably the case here. Yep. And that's about it on defense. You know, with BG now retired, and with Bryce Huff not there, and with what's his face also not there, the other edge rusher, Nolan Smith not participating. You just saw a lot of obviously Jalix Hunt and Ojulari and Uche running with the first team and the second team. So, but you know, again, you can't hit the quarterback. There's no running play, so really getting into the trenches is not. There's nothing that really stood out there.
No, it's. I read nothing into any of this stuff other than observations about body types and depth chart. I like to mark down depth charts and kind of see where they're lining up guys. We'll see what happens in training because sometimes the stuff really winds up happening. So it's interesting. Mm-hmm. But coaches tell me a lot over the years that they experiment. Because it's done because if something happens, they don't want to like. It's the worst thing that could happen is if you're practicing in the guy at training camp and he's never played that position. Like you can't. Right. That's not good. It's not good coaching.
Yes.
You know? So you never know when a guy's going to get his opportunity. So that is interesting. Oh, and we'll do the Patullo stuff next week because we we're going a little bit long here. We're over an hour, but Patullo, I was there's a coach that I know worked with him in Indy. He gave me some really good stuff.
Yeah.
And he had a very good interview with the media on when was it Wednesday?
It was Wednesday.
You were there.
Very calm, Yeah, I mean, he his basic thing was, I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel here, which is smart. Mm-hmm. Got into some of his coaching influences, which we can talk about on the next pod. And I'll leave you with this, Adam.
Okay.
One thing, because Mike Gill asked me about this in Football at 4. You have the players on offense last week who were made available to the media. It was Mailata, it was Hurts, it was AJ Brown. And there was a common theme among them about offensive evolution, about Jalen Hurts said iteration, this year's iteration of the offense many times. And I even asked one of them, does some of that have to do with 2023? Because, you guys were very successful in 22, 23, it wasn't as good. And that by the end of the year, Nick Sirianni is basically saying the concepts were stale, and that's why he hired Kellen Moore. So now you're talking about winning the Super Bowl, but also wanting to evolve offensively. But yet you also have players and the coach saying, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're going to carry it over, which I'm not saying these two are mutually exclusive concepts. I think you can grow while also doing what you do best. But you just wonder if with the hard schedule and the defenses are going to play, do they feel like they really do need to be a little bit more advanced in the passing offense this coming year to evolve? Because they didn't evolve in 2023, and that hurt them because the league caught up to what they were doing.
So. They did, and Nick did not do a good job adjusting. Last year, the passing game was totally uneven in the regular season. It was. There were some weeks where you're like, man, this looks really bad. and it is what it is. And then Hurts got hot late in the season, Super Bowl MVP. As I said when Kellen Moore left, it's too bad. Well, good for him that he got a head coaching job, but I really thought I thought Hurts and Kellen Moore really got together really well late in the season. Finally clicked. It took long enough.
Yeah.
But it's too bad. Now he's on his 5th different play caller in 5 years. That's just not good. It is what it is. Nobody's fault. It's just the way that the league is.
Right.
But the cool thing about Petula as we close this out, this is their 5th year together. They know each other.
Yeah.
Hurts and Petula know each other real well.
Yes, I agree. And I think Petula will have a good concept going in. He has of what they can do, maybe areas that he could probably grow the offense realistically, and also what they might not be able to do, just based on knowing what the personnel is and what their strengths and weaknesses are.
Sure. That's right.
All right. Great stuff. Really enjoyed that podcast. And that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.